Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NFL Week 13 episode of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 bets marches on. I got to tell you, it's 5 years ago. I sat down and I tried to think of, a good piece of content for NFL betting season. And I thought, hey, what would be kind of fun that I don't think anyone else does is betting on every single NFL game. At the time, it was 256. I figured, hey, let's bet on all 256 NFL regular season games. That'd be fun. We'll do our best to see if we can be profitable. That was one of the worst decisions of my life. This is now season 5, and it's taken a toll on me. Listen, profitable 3 of the 4 years. I've had one losing season, but I have not suffered a season that has been more frustrating than this. The losses I have, and listen, I know you don't want me to come on here every week and yap about losses. I wouldn't either. But the other Sunday night. Hold on. Heading into this season, I figured, betting on all 272 NFL games isn't enough. Let me bet 10 player props every week too. That would be fun. Maybe I'm really good at player props. Never really been a player prop guy. Let me do 10 player props every single week. So heading into Sunday Night Football, it is the Eagles, it is the Rams. I have the under. I also have Matt Stafford to go under 242 and a half passing yards. First half looked fantastic. Matt Stafford, I think, threw for 70 yards in the first half. I think there was 20 total points scored. I went to bed. I wanted to get a good night's sleep. I figured I'd go to bed, get a good night's sleep, wake up. Both those bets would hit. In the time I got ready for bed, I then laid down, opened my phone, and 2 touchdowns were already scored in the second half. Literally one on the very first play of the entire second half. Saquon Barkley takes it 100 yards, touchdown. Rams go back very quickly, score a touchdown. Now I can't go to sleep because now the under is in question. Now I don't get up and watch the rest of the game on TV. Instead, I lay in bed and just refresh the score app every 30 seconds to see what's happening. It looked like the under was then not going to hit. I think the live total got up to as high as 58.5. Then it looked like it was going to hit. The Eagles then got the ball with a big lead. We need 1 first down, maybe 2. That's the end of the game. Under hits. Matt Stafford under hits by about 100 yards. They move the ball. I think they get 1 first down. They're probably a first down away from being able to kneel the ball. Saquon Barkley decides to take it 72 yards to the house. Every other time in this situation, when I need the player to do that and they break free, they stop and take a kneel because they don't need to score. Saquon Barkley decides, no, fuck your under bet. I'm going to score. Okay, perfect. The under is now dead. Then at that point in time, I figured, okay, at least, if the Chargers cover on Monday night, at least I still have a chance to finish profitable for the week for the road to 272. That's not going to happen. They just punted down 2 touchdowns with 5 minutes left for some reason. So now losing week and road to 272. But at least I said, hey, my Matt Stafford bet's going to hit. That's going to put me 6-4 for player props. I'll have a profitable week for my player props. I forget the exact yardage, but I noticed based on the kick where the kickoff went to, they needed 83 yards to score a touchdown. Matt Stafford was sitting at the under on his player prop by 82 yards, which means the only way now that I could lose the Matt Stafford under player prop would be for him to pass for all 83 yards in these final minute and a half, including a touchdown. Literally, if they ran the ball for 2 yards and then he passed for 81 of the 83 yards, that would have been fine. The only way I'd lose the Matt Stafford under would be he is responsible for all 83 yards through the air and they score a garbage time touchdown that is meaningless. What happens? Matt Stafford throws for all 83 yards himself. Touchdown. I lose Matt Stafford under whatever the number was, under 243. He throws for 1 yard over, 244. Or I took under 242 and a half and he finished with 243. It was 1 yard under. Which means the Eagles were 1 first down away from me being profitable for the week in the road to 272 and profitable for the week in the player prop countdown. Instead, they score a touchdown on a long play, which then gives the ball to the Rams to give Matt Stafford a chance, an unlikely chance, but a chance to then fuck me for my Matt Stafford under passing yards. The probability of all of that happening in one game to fuck me both in the road to 272 and the player prop countdown has to be minuscule. Has to be less than 0.5%. Yet they both happen. Why do I do this to myself? Why do I bet on football? Why do I work in the sports betting industry? I had a couple summers where I worked at a Michelin tire factory in the Annapolis Valley in Nova Scotia. It wasn't fun. You worked 12-hour shifts. Half of them were night shifts from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. It was pretty hellish work. But if I stayed at the Michelin tire factory, I wouldn't have had to suffer a loss on both an under and a Matt Stafford under passing yards prop that had about a 0.5% chance of not cashing. Picks that I give out publicly, picks that I'm following on Twitter, picks that I need to publicly suffer from losing. But I've chosen this line of business. I do love this line of business, but sometimes nights like that make me question if I should go back to the Michelin tire factory. So because, another big Derrick Henry run, another first down, the Chargers are officially dead. So that brings my road to 272 record this season to last week. We'll start with last week. 6-7 for minus 1.6 units. Thank you to the under and the Rams and Eagles. That brings my season-to-date record to 89, 87, and 3 for minus 4.18 units. I'm right around, I forget exactly off the top. No, I think my worst season, my losing season I had before, I think I was down double digits. I think I was down 11 units maybe. We still have plenty of time to bounce back, both in the player prop countdown and the road to 272. We're not down a ton. Player prop, especially after a 4-6, I guess it was a 5-5 week, so I guess it wasn't a huge loss. We can easily get back in profit with a strong finish. We can easily get back and finish actually with a decent profit. We have time left. But if I keep losing bets, especially double bets, in the fashion that I lost on Sunday night, in the fashion that I've lost several times this season, I mean, I could, off the top of my head, I lost an under on the Vikings in prime time because there's a face mask in the end zone, wasn't called safety. That was Rams against Vikings. Another Rams under, lost in prime time at the last second. Lost a bet on the Hail Mary, Jaden Daniels Commanders against the Bears. The bad beats that I've suffered this season, Gambler or the Gambling God is not very happy with me. All I can do is dust myself off and continue to try. Continue to march on the road to 272 bets. So that is what we are doing, my friends. It is American Thanksgiving this week. So we got 3 games to bet on Thursday, a game to bet on Black Friday. Allow me to say as a Canadian that American Thanksgiving is at the wrong time. This is way too close to Christmas to have a holiday. Christmas is the number one holiday in the world, number one holiday in North America for the year, but yet we decide to have Thanksgiving less than a month away from it. Why? In Canada, Thanksgiving is in October, mid-October. That is the correct time. You have Labor Day in September, you have Thanksgiving mid-October, and then you have a decent 2-month gap until the biggest holiday of the year, Christmas. Why in America do you guys have Labor Day? I think you have Labor Day, and then you have like a 2-month gap, and then Remembrance Day too. You have like a 2-month gap, and then Thanksgiving, over 2-month gap, Thanksgiving, 2.5-month gap. And then like 3 weeks later, you're like, oh yeah, it's Christmas. Thanksgiving belongs in October. Also, October feels a lot more... It feels like winter right now. Thanksgiving is not a winter holiday. It's a fall holiday. Regardless, I can't choose the NFL schedule. We have 3 games on Thursday, 1 on Friday, a bunch on Sunday, and 1 on Monday. This is the path I've chosen. The path I've chosen is the road to 272. No matter how much it has knocked me down, no matter the beating I've taken this season, I will continue the journey. Let's get into it. It is the NFL Week 13 edition of the Bacon Bets podcast. The road to 272 bets marches on.
I'm not a state. I'm a monster.
No, Lisa. The only monster here is the gambling monster that has enslaved your mother. I call him Gambler, and it's time to snatch your mother from his neon claws!
All right, if you thought I was about to give out picks and that I was done yapping, you thought wrong. Because I forgot about another thing I wanted to talk about really quick. Fantasy football. I think I'm done with fantasy football. I'm in a lot of leagues, 5 fantasy football leagues this season, I think. I think I might just quit them all. You can't play defense in fantasy football. The 2 main leagues that I care about in fantasy football, and one, my team has the second most points against. The other, my team has the third most points against in the league, and because of that, I'm well outside the playoff picture in both of them. One of them, I have the third most points in the league. Third most points in the league, my team is 5-7, 2 games out of the playoffs. By no fault of my own. I drafted a good team. I've been building towards this. I picked up some good free agents. My team is a good team, third most points in the league, and not that far behind the first most points in the league. But because every time I play against someone, the team I'm going up against snaps, I'm 5-7 and I'm outside the playoff picture. Screwed. No chance to the playoffs. Can't even get into the postseason. The other leagues, it's same deal. Every time I play against a team, that team has their best week of the season. And the other one's Dynasty, one I've been building this team for years, smartly. Is a rebuilding process. I finally have a good team. Some of the most points for in the entire Dynasty League. Doesn't matter. I won this week. So I went from 4-7 to 5-7 still. I have almost zero chance to make the playoffs. How can anyone enjoy fantasy football when actually what it comes down to is like if the team you're playing against happens to have a good week or not? I can't play defense. What do you want me to do? I built a team. I scored the points. I deserve to be in the playoffs, but it doesn't matter because every time I play against a team, they have their best week of the season. What am I supposed to do? You would think keeper leagues, dynasty leagues would make up for this. No, it doesn't matter. I keep the right guys. I draft the right guys. Rookie draft's great. Everything's going well. Doesn't matter. One league I'm in, I'm looking at it right now. I'm not, and this doesn't count this week because the standings aren't updated, but points against 1,579.92. There's someone who's close who has 1,542. So he has 30 fewer points scored against me. The third most points against in this league has 1,437, about 140 fewer than what's been scored against me in this league. How is that possible? Can I call a mulligan on this entire football season? I want a mulligan on all my bets, all my player props. I want a mulligan on my sleepers or my survivor picks. I want a mulligan on my fantasy football leagues. I want a mulligan on every single. I want a mulligan on the Falcons season. Can we just redo the entire football season? Let's jump in a time machine, go back to September, and just redo everything because this is ridiculous. All right. All right. Let's march on. Let's try to just have a profitable week. Let's whatever. Thanksgiving Day, we're starting off with the Chicago Bears against the Detroit Lions, and you can tell how much I'm losing my mind by the bets I'm placing this week because every single ugly bet that you can place this week I'm on. Give me the Bears plus 10.5 against the best team in football. Is this going to win? No. Don't follow this play. The Lions are going to win by 28 points. But I'm going to bet on the Bears because I'm an idiot. The Bears secondary is still one of the best in the NFL. They rank inside the top 5 in most metrics, including opponent yards per pass attempt. They have struggled to stop the run at times. That is certainly the case. But I think if they can slow down the Lions' pass attack, I think they should be in a great spot to keep this score in check. Because we are at the end of the day, and by the way, this might be the ultimate sell high spot in the NFL of all time. We have the Lions who are undeniably the best team in the NFL, but now we have a Lions team that's laying 10.5 on a short week against a divisional opponent. A divisional opponent that's trending in the right direction. The Bears' offense significantly better since they fired Shane Waldron. Yes, it's a 2-game sample size, sure, but they have looked significantly better in their last 2 games. Caleb Williams had a 95 quarterback rating 2 weeks ago against the Packers. And then against a very good Vikings defense, completed 68% of passes, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, 103.1 rating against Minnesota. And now you have to mention the Detroit Lions are banged up. Aiden Hutchinson, Alex Anzalone obviously out. Terry and Arnold, questionable. Carlton Davis left the game this past week. The Lions are banged up. short week, divisional game. Bears trending in the right direction. Bears secondary still very good. I will take the 10.5 points with the Chicago Bears in the first game on Thanksgiving Day. Lions will win by 37 points. Let's keep the ugly bets rolling. New York Giants, the worst team in football. Quarterback by Tommy DeVito. I'm going to take the 4 points with the New York Giants against the Dallas Cowboys. Why? Because I'm a masochist, and I subconsciously want to lose every bet I place. So I will take the Giants +4. One area the Giants have a huge advantage in is the run game. Neither team can stop the run. Let's make that very clear. They're both like bottom 5 in just about everything in terms of run defense. Actually, I have it right here. Cowboys run defense dead last in opponent rush EPA, 28th in opponent rush success rate. Giants aren't that much better at that, though. But then you have to look at which of the two offenses are better at actually running the ball. Which of the two offenses is better built to take advantage of the weakness of the other side? And it is the Giants. Tyrone Tracy Jr. is averaging 5.1 yards per carry. Cowboys' run game is doing a little bit better since they made Rico Dowdle their primary back. Still, he is not even coming close to averaging what Tyrone Tracy, who might be the most underrated rookie of all time. He's averaging 5.1 yards per carry, and nobody gives a shit. Also, Cowboys have a ton of injuries, a ton of offensive line injuries as well, and that's going to hurt them against a Giants team whose biggest strength is their pass rush. So I will take the 4 points in the mid-afternoon game that none of us are really going to pay attention to because we're all going to be asleep and having a nap, although I won't be because I won't be eating turkey because I'm not celebrating Thanksgiving because it's stupid that it's this late in the year. Giants +4, -110 against the Cowboys. Thursday Night Football, I guess is not technically Thursday Night Football, the brand of Thursday Night Football, but is a night game on Thursday. It is the Dolphins against the Packers, and I will take the Dolphins +3 at even money. I did flirt with the idea of taking the Dolphins on the money line. Didn't quite get there, though. I'm going to be honest. The cold weather in Green Bay does freak me out about the Dolphins. It is a narrative I have not wanted to listen to in past seasons, the past couple of years, but then every time they do go to a cold climate, I bet on them, and then they look cold the entire game. Most notably in Kansas City for the playoffs last year, week 17 or week 18 against Buffalo was the same thing. So that does scare me. With that being said, I do think the Dolphins are in a great spot against a Packers team that has been winning games and covering spreads, but I'm just not fully convinced this Packers team is as good as the record. Jordan Love, and I've brought this up before, ranks 15th in EPA plus CPOE adjusted, 10th in adjusted EPA per play. By comparison, Tua Tagovailoa ranks 3rd in the NFL in both those stats. He has been absolutely fantastic since he has returned to the Dolphins lineup. Actually, since he has returned, the Dolphins offense ranks 4th in EPA per play, 2nd success rate, and they look as dynamic and as explosive as they did at their peak last season, in my opinion. Obviously, they're not scoring 70 points, but they're still a very good offense, and I think they're just going to be able to overpower this Packers offense or this Packers team, and I don't think the Packers offense is going to be able to keep pace. So I'll take the Dolphins with the 3 points at even money on Thursday night. So all 3 Thanksgiving Day games, I will be taking the points with the underdogs. Moving on to Black Friday, I'm going to take the favorite in this one. Now, this is going to be, once again, a stupid bet that won't hit, so don't tail it. Go ahead and take the Raiders instead. But I'm going to lay the 13 points with the Chiefs because it looks like Desmond Ridder is starting. That's not confirmed. I think Aiden O'Connell, there is a chance he might be back this week for the Raiders. If there's any chance at all that Desmond Ridder is starting, I will not be betting on Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder has screwed me too many times before when he was on the Falcons. I know who Desmond Ridder is. I know what he's about. He is a turnover machine. He cannot be explosive. He will have a couple of decent plays, but overall he will fail. And already the Raiders offense is dead last in EPA per play. You toss in Desmond Ridder as a quarterback, they're only going to get worse. Because at the very least, Minshew's going to toss the ball, and Minshew is at times going to make something out of nothing. Desmond Ridder will make nothing out of something. So I will lay the points against the Chiefs. The Chiefs team that hasn't covered in 5 straight games, a Chiefs game that seemingly cannot cover big spreads. I think they do this week because if Desmond Ridder plays quarterback, the Raiders may not score a single point. I will take the Chiefs -13 on Black Friday. Texans and Jaguars. It looks like Trevor Lawrence might be back for this game. I did see that he practiced Monday. That does not necessarily mean that he's gonna be back this week. But he is at least practicing, which means he's on track to getting back this week. And if he does, then it's hard for me. Sorry, I was just watching the last play of the Ravens-Chargers game. Okay, they did throw a flag there. It is going to be hard for me to lay the points on a Texans team on the road, a Texans team that I don't think is that good, against a Jaguars team if they do have Trevor Lawrence back. So what I'm going to do instead, I also don't want to bet on the Jaguars because their defense is the worst in the NFL. So what I'm going to do instead is that I'm going to take the over. I'll take the over 43 minus 110 between the Texans and the Jaguars because, like I said, the Jaguars rank dead last in opponent EPA, 29th in opponent success rate, dead last in opponent yards per play. They give up 6.2 yards per snap. Any game involving a defense that bad should not have a total of 43. I don't care how bad the offense is that they're facing. And just to be clear, the Texans offense is not a bad offense. They have some hiccups. They may just not be as good as they looked last year. They may not be as good as people expected, but the Texans offense can certainly score against the worst defense in football. And if Trevor Lawrence is back, I think the Jaguars can score too. So I'll take the over 43 between the Texans and the Jaguars. I do have to admit, usually I don't bet on the games involving the teams who played on Monday night until after the game. I got so excited to place this bet that I accidentally placed this bet before remembering that the Chargers played on Monday night. So I don't know. This game still has a minute and a half left. I don't know exactly what the new line is going to be when it gets released. I hope it's not too different. But I will say, regardless, anything up to a field goal, and it's not going to be over a field goal, anything up to a field goal, take the Chargers to cover against the Falcons. I took the Chargers at -1. I mean, they're about to lose by 2 touchdowns, maybe a touchdown if they score here. It's not going to get much longer than -1, I don't think. So it's probably going to be around -1, maybe it gets to 1.5, 2. But I'll take the Chargers -1 against the Falcons, because this is, I don't care that Atlanta's off a bye week and Chargers are on a short week. This is a nightmare matchup for the Atlanta Falcons. I'm shocked at this spread. I thought this spread was going to be 3.5. I think I set this line at 3.5 in favor of the Chargers, honestly. Now, that has something to do with me probably miscalculating, mispricing the game. But the Falcons' defense is horrific. 25th in opponent dropback EPA. They allow the highest opponent completion percentage in the National Football League. Worse than the Panthers, worse than the Giants, worse than the Raiders, worse than every other team. Dead last is dead last. They are dead last in opponent completion percentage. Teams are completing 71.62% of passes against them, and now they have to play against Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. So then you look at it, okay, if the Chargers are going to score, which they will, they might score 48 points in this game, then the Falcons are going to have to beat them in a shootout, which they can do if their offense has their A-plus game, but then you realize the Chargers also have an elite defense. Kirk Cousins and the Falcons offense is not going to be able to score 40 points against this Chargers defense, and so that means the Falcons will lose, and the Chargers will cover the spread. Chargers -1, -110. Titans and Commanders. All right, let's be happy, because listen, the Titans finally came through for me. After the entire season of betting on the Tennessee Titans and them being the worst spread team in the NFL, they finally covered a spread. I should have taken their money line. I didn't. I got scared. I became a coward. But they finally covered for me last week against the Texans, which means I will bet on them again against the Commanders. I told you last week. I even looked ahead to this game last week. I said I'm taking the Titans again next week against the Commanders. I love it. Titans, once again, and this is kind of my belief when it comes to NFL. If there is a team that I'm pricing extremely different from what the market is pricing them, and they fail to cover, I have the belief that eventually there's going to be some positive regression. I do think from now until the end of the season, it's not going to be every week, and maybe it's not this week, but from now until the end of the season, the Titans are going to cover a few games because they are playing better than their record indicates. 17th in the NFL in net yards per play. They're 12th in net yards per play over their last three games. Their defense, not as good as they looked at the start of the season, but their defense is still an above average unit. Will Levis has a high ceiling as long as he doesn't turn over the ball. I believe in this Titans team, and now they are taking on a team that I also have a very strong take on, is the Commanders, a team who I bet against them last week. because of Cliff Kingsbury. It was a narrative that's a very public narrative that people have talked about. Cliff Kingsbury has continuously regressed in the second half of seasons throughout his entire career as a coach. Jaden Daniels looks a little bit banged up, and we saw it this past week against truly an abysmal Cowboys defense. Until the last 3 minutes, they could do nothing. So I will take my trusty Titans. I will fade a Commanders team that is coached by Cliff Kingsbury, and I will take the Titans plus 5.5 at minus 105. All right, I believe we are halfway through the picks for this week. Yes, we are. So I'm going to take a quick break. That's 8 down, 8 to go. I'm just going to watch the last 30 seconds of this Chargers game, see if they get the onside kick, and I'll be back in just a moment to give out the rest of my plays for NFL Week 13. All right, we are back, and we're going to start with my first of 2 upset picks for Week 13. It is the Arizona Cardinals plus 168 against the Minnesota Vikings. I am not holding last week's performance by the Arizona Cardinals against the Seattle Seahawks. Against them is a divisional game. I think it was an outlier game specifically for their offense. I actually gained some respect based on how well their defense played in that game, and that was one of the reasons why I bet on Arizona, even though it was a losing bet. I felt their defense has played a lot better the last 5-6 games than they did their first 5 or 6 games, and they proved that against Seattle. Them scoring 6 points on offense was kind of the shocker. I don't expect that to happen again. And the Vikings, I'm going to say they are due for a loss, but I don't mean that in a sense where I'm just going to bet against them because they're due. I mean that more of a sense that they aren't playing well enough this season to only have 2 losses on the record. Eventually, that does kind of catch up to you. Now, they are a very good team. They're a playoff team for sure, but they're going to lose one of these next couple of weeks. Their defense has regressed a little bit. Haven't played quite as well as they did very early in the season. Their offense still kind of remains an above average unit, but certainly not. It's kind of crazy to think that the Vikings and the Lions are 1 game difference in the record because the Lions are a true elite football team. The Vikings are a good but not great football team, and I think that's going to come back to haunt them here in a little bit. If you look at a lot of metrics, these 2 teams are actually very similar, especially, net yards per play. They're right next to each other. Over their last 3 games, even despite the loss this past week, the Cardinals are still 3rd in the NFL in net yards per play at plus 2.3 over the last 3 games. Vikings plus 0.6 over that stretch. So I'm going to take a little bit of a shot here on the Cardinals to bounce back with a win. I'll take them plus 168 on the money line against Minnesota. Colts and Patriots. I will take the 3 points with the New England Patriots. I'm glad I ended up going on the under with the Colts in the Lions last week instead of taking the Colts to cover because, and I did have a sneaky suspicion, Anthony Richardson had a very good game 2 weeks ago, and people, including myself, I think I even said it on the podcast last week, were saying that Anthony Richardson has been fixed, that the Colts had an offense that was going to play to Anthony Richardson's strengths. And then he went on to complete 11 of 28 passes for 172 yards. He then went back to a classic Anthony Richardson game. So that just goes to show a 1-game sample size should not sway your decision or make you think that things have completely changed. Now, I will say, obviously, the Lions defense is significantly better than the Patriots defense, but I'm still not going to rush to lay 3 points on a Colts team on the road against just about anyone in the NFL right now. I don't trust their offense. Their run game, while everyone's talking about Jonathan Taylor, the run game still isn't that good, to be completely honest. I do still like what Drake May has done for the Patriots, and the Colts defense is 23rd in the NFL in opponent yards per pass attempt, giving up 7.1 yards per throw. I think Drake May, especially at home, is going to be able to do enough to stay in this game. So I will take the 3 points. I got Patriots plus 3, minus 115 on their home field against the Indianapolis Colts. Bengals against Steelers. I went back and forth on this one a lot. I've talked about the Steelers team a lot, obviously, in the past handful of weeks, about how I've gone 4 years betting against them unsuccessfully. 2 weeks ago, I said, you know what? I give up. I give in. I will now be a Steelers guy. They won for me the first week against the Ravens. Last week, they lost in the snowstorm. Now I'm looking at the line here against the Bengals. They're on the road. Bengals are laying 3. Bengals are coming off a bye week. Cincinnati has their back up against the wall. Cincinnati's offense is one of the best in the NFL. My brain is screaming at me to take the Bengals. But I said 3 weeks ago now, I'm going to be a Steelers guy. I'm going to trust Mike Tomlin. I'm going to trust the defense. I'm going to trust the voodoo magic that the Steelers have that allow them to win and cover against much better football teams. So I'm going to stick to it. It's tough because I'm going to be honest. If you want to bet metrics, if you want to bet numbers, take the Bengals. But me trying to do that against the Steelers has been unsuccessful for enough time now that I'm going to go against every intuition I have about this game, and I will take these Steelers plus 3, minus 115. I'm going to try not to hold their loss last Thursday night against them. That was obviously in a snowstorm. Weird things happen. Divisional game. This is also a divisional game. But you're going to give the Voodoo Steelers 3 points. I will take the Voodoo Steelers. And I think if they can slow down the Bengals offense enough, which their defense is good enough to do it, they can stay in this game. I'll take Steelers plus 3, minus 115. The Seahawks and the Jets. I don't know what's going on with the Jets in the betting market. All season, and I fell for this this trap early in the season, especially. The betting market has evaluated the Jets as way better than they are. A few weeks ago, I got off that, and I'm going to continue to get off that. I don't see how you can set the Jets as only 2-point underdogs in this game. And they open, I think, as just a point underdog or a 1.5 underdog. The line has shifted a point towards the Seahawks. I think it might shift at least another half point to Seahawks minus 2.5. Because the Jets weren't a good team to start the season offensively. They fired Robert Salah. Since they fired Robert Salah, their defense is 29th in opponent EPA per play, 19th in opponent success rate. And now they're imploding. Now ownership says they don't want Aaron Rodgers back. Aaron Rodgers is being a wacko. Their defense continues to suck. Everyone's given up on the team, but yet you're still only going to set them as 2-point underdogs against a division-leading Seahawks team. I don't get that. The Jets' offense is 24th in yards per play, 17th in EPA per play. Like I said earlier, their defense has fallen off a cliff since firing Salah. I will lay the 2 points on the Seahawks, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Give me Seattle minus 2. Rams and the Saints. I will take the Saints plus 3. I think we need to evaluate the Saints team a little bit differently. This Saints team was better than a lot of box scores indicated early in the season, and then Derek Carr got hurt, and they were terrible with their backup quarterbacks, and then they fired Dennis Allen, and now they have a seemingly good interim coach, and Derek Carr is back. So it's kind of like they were being undervalued, and then they weren't being undervalued enough because of the pieces they were missing, and now they're back to being just undervalued. I do think the Saints are better than the market gives them credit for. They're 3-point underdogs at home to a Rams team that I'm not all in on the Rams. Listen, I was praising their defense. Their defense sucked on Sunday night. Their defense was horrific. Outside their pass rush has been very good. Outside of that, not good. And I actually am not a huge believer in their passing game. Puka Nacua, very good. Cooper Kupp, very good. Matthew Stafford's not playing as well as a lot of people think. 19th in the NFL in both EPA plus CPOE composite and adjusted EPA. That means he has been an average quarterback this season. They're laying 3 points on the road against a Saints team that is coming off a bye, a Saints team that has looked good in their last 2 games. I'm not confident enough to say the Saints are going to win this game, but I'm certainly going to take the Saints getting a field goal against this Rams team. I'll take Saints plus 3, minus 118. Buccaneers and Panthers. Bryce Young has, give him credit, looked a lot better since he's been back as the starter. I wanted to lay points with the Buccaneers. By the way, I interviewed Rachaad White today of the Buccaneers. That interview, I think, is going to come out next week, I believe. I tried to. He jumped on before the interview started getting recorded. He jumped on and immediately said, "Oh God, you're a Falcons fan?" You could see the Falcons hello in my background. I tried to get him going. I tried to get him to, once we started the actual interview, to get him to shit talk the Falcons. He wouldn't. Refused to. No matter what angle I tried to come at him. Nice guy. Media trained. Certainly media trained. I could not get any shit talk out of him. I tried. So keep an eye out for that. Rachaad White, Bucks running back, I interviewed. That'll be out. I think it's next week. But Buccaneers and Panthers, I don't want to lay the points on the Buccaneers based on how Bryce Young has played. I also don't want to bet on Bryce Young necessarily, so I'm going to take the over 46.5 between the Bucs and the Panthers. Since week 9, since Bryce Young has been back as their starter, he now ranks 17th in adjusted EPA per play. Those numbers aren't fantastic, But they're certainly better than what he used to, because all last season and when he started the first few weeks of this season, he was dead last in every single quarterback metric. Average to below average is a lot better than dead last. And listen, he hasn't played necessarily easy defenses either. I mean, scoring 27 points against the Chiefs is no joke. So I don't want to lay points on the Buccaneers because the Buccaneers defense is far worse than the defenses of the Chiefs and the Saints, who he has already played pretty well against. So instead of that, I'm going to take the over. These two defenses, the Buccaneers and the Panthers, rank 26th and 31st in opponent EPA per play. They also rank 31st and 32nd, so the two worst defenses in the NFL this season in opponent success rate. So bottom 5 in every metric, bottom 2 in opponent success rate. Any game involving two bottom 5 defenses in the NFL should not have a total as low as 46.5. So for that reason, I will take the over 46.5 between the Bucs and the Panthers. All right, here's my other upset of the week. I'm going to go Philadelphia Eagles plus 124 against the Baltimore Ravens. I think, in my opinion, the top two teams in the NFL, I think it is the Lions, it is the Eagles. I think there is a gap, and then I think it is the Bills and the Ravens. Then I think there's a gap, and then I think there's the rest of the NFL. Probably topped by the Chiefs, although the Chiefs haven't played well enough to be a top 5 or top 6 team. But you kind of have to give it to them because of their history and because of how well they've recently just turned it on in the playoffs. But in terms of, if we take out previous results, previous Super Bowls, if we just focus on this season in a vacuum, it is the Eagles and the Lions, number 1 and number 2, a gap, the Bills and the Ravens, number 3, number 4, a gap, and then the rest of the NFL, truly. So with the Eagles being 2-point road favorites, 2-point road underdogs in Baltimore, that tells me the market has this as a pick'em in a neutral field. I disagree. In a neutral field, if the Eagles and the Ravens played in the Super Bowl, I would set the Eagles as 2-point favorites. The Ravens certainly aren't getting 4 points for home field advantage. So my evaluation is different from the market evaluation of the Eagles. I will take them to win outright in Baltimore on Sunday. Ever since making adjustments to their defense, the Eagles have had arguably the best defense in football, second in opponent EPA per play, third in opponent success rate, and now they get to face one of the worst defenses in the NFL in the Ravens, which, to be fair, the Ravens defense did largely step up against the Chargers tonight on Monday night. But still, I think Eagles and Ravens offenses are very comparable. I think they can both run the ball. I think they're the two best run offenses in the NFL. Pass offenses, both very, very good, very dynamic. But then the defenses are night and day. You have inarguably a top 5 defense against inarguably a bottom 10 defense. I will take the team that has the significantly better defense. Give me Eagles plus 124 on the money line. Sunday night football. I'm going to take... I might be doing 9 picks this half, and maybe I only did 7 in the first half. I don't know. I feel like I have an extra pick in here. That's impossible, though. Sunday Night Football, it is the 49ers against the Bills, and I will take the 49ers plus 7. I'm going to go down with the ship of the 49ers. Now, Brock Purdy did throw lightly at practice on Monday, apparently. I don't know if that means he's going to play. I think it's somewhat good news. Also, Dre Greenlaw is returning to practice on Wednesday, so the 49ers might have both Brock Purdy and Dre Greenlaw back. I will tell you this 7-point spread is an indication that Brock Purdy will not be back. If you bet this on Tuesday morning when you're listening to this, if you think Brock Purdy is going to be back based on Monday's reports, bet it now. I guess if you don't think he's going to be back, it's not going to matter. If you don't think he's going to be back, it's not going to matter unless you want to bet the Bills. If you want to bet the Bills, I wouldn't bet this game now. I would rate, because if you bet the Bills at -7 and then Brock Purdy's back, you're kind of fucked. And if you want to bet the Bills and Brock Purdy doesn't play, it's probably going to stay at 7 anyways. Regardless, I'm going to take a shot and hope Brock Purdy plays plus 7. I mean, if he does, you don't really even need to hear me make the argument that this is a good bet. I think we can all assume that this is a good bet if Brock Purdy plays at plus 7. I mean, 49ers have had some of the worst luck I've ever seen a team have between injuries and losing coin flip games. They're still statistically one of the better teams in the NFL. They're third in the NFL in net yards per play. They're 10th in EPA per play, 14th in opponent EPA per play. They are not a team, no matter what metric you want to look at, that deserves to be a 7-point underdog to anybody. Now, if Brock Purdy doesn't play, then they do deserve to be a 7-point underdog. And if Brock Purdy does not play, I guess I have to hope Brandon Allen can cover a spread. But I'm going to take a risk that he does play. I will take the 49ers plus 7. Minus 110, which leaves me with the final pick for Week 13. It is the Broncos against the Browns on Monday Night Football, and I will continue to back my trusty Broncos, who almost blew it to Desmond Ridder. Almost allowed Desmond Ridder, was an inch away from allowing Desmond Ridder to have a backdoor cover against them this past week. Thankfully did not. I will bet on them on Monday night. Just like I'm not going to judge the Steelers for losing to the Browns on a snowy Thursday Night Football game, I'm not going to judge the Browns for winning that game either. I still think the Browns are one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're dead last in net yards per play at minus 1.2. Jameis Winston, definition of boom or bust, has to play on the road in Denver at elevation against a very good Denver defense, a defense that can rush the passer. It's going to be a tough matchup for my guy, Jameis Winston. Bo Nix continues to improve. Since Week 7, he's 14th in the NFL in EPA plus CPOE composite, 13th in adjusted EPA. He is now an above-average quarterback since Week 7. He's found a fantastic connection with Courtland Sutton, which has led to that improvement. I've liked the Broncos all season. I've liked them in recent weeks, except for the Falcons, which is done for me to bet against them. I will continue to ride the ponies. Give me the Denver Broncos Monday Night Football minus 5.5. There you go. All right, let me recap my plays here, and then I will give you my best bets and my favorite teaser of the week. Yeah, I think maybe the first half of the show I only did 7 and then did 9. It doesn't matter. You got all my picks regardless. All right, Bears plus 10.5 minus 110. Giants plus 4 against the Cowboys. Dolphins plus 3 even money on Thursday night of Thanksgiving against the Packers. The Chiefs minus 13 against the Raiders on Black Friday. Texans, Jaguars over 43. Chargers minus 1 against the Falcons. Let me actually double check to see if that line reopened. It reopened at least at DraftKings at minus 1.5. I bet it at Caesars at minus 1. Let me see if Caesars has reopened that market. If it's 1.5, it's I like it up to. I mean, I told you I have Chargers at minus 3.5. So anything up to 3, I'm going to like. It has not reopened at Caesars yet, so I don't know if it's still going to be at that minus 1 number. Worst case, it'll be at minus 1.5. Still love it at that price. So Chargers minus 1. Titans plus 5.5, minus 105 against the Commanders. Cardinals plus 168 against the Vikings. Patriots plus 3, minus 115 against the Colts. Steelers plus 3, minus 115 against the Bengals. Seahawks minus 2 against the Jets. Saints plus 3, minus 118 against the Rams. Buccaneers, Panthers over 46.5. Eagles plus 124 against the Ravens. 49ers plus 7 against the Bills. And then the Broncos minus 5.5 on Monday Night Football. Last week, my best bets went 2 and 3. I hit the Lions and Colts under. I also hit the Broncos minus 4.5. I obviously lost 49ers plus 2.5. I mean, I knew that bet lost as soon as Brock Purdy was announced out. That was just bad luck. I did not know on Monday night last week that Brock Purdy was injured. Chiefs minus 11 against the Panthers. Underestimated the Panthers this past week. That's on me. And then Eagles Rams under 50 was a loser, and I've already ranted about that game. That was truly unbelievable. Teaser loss. Lions obviously covered their leg of the teaser, but once again, I put in the 49ers in the teaser, and at that time, I did not know Brock Purdy was hurt. The downside of having to bet on games on Monday night. This week, my 5 best bets. Chargers minus 1 against the Falcons. Bears plus 10.5 on Thanksgiving against the Lions. Texans, Jaguars over 43. Seahawks minus 2. 49ers again. I don't know why I'm betting on them again. Plus 7. Chargers, Bears, Texans, Jaguars over. Seahawks, 49ers are my 5 best bets for this week. Teaser of the week. We're going to take the Eagles up from 2.5 to 8.5. That is a great teaser leg against the Ravens. We're crossing the key number of 3. We're crossing the key number of 7. And if I like them to win outright, I obviously like them getting 8.5 points. We're also going to tease the Buccaneers down from 6 down to a pick 'em. We're getting off the secondary key number of 6. We're crossing the primary key number of 3, and we are getting it down to a pick'em. Bryce Young can't do it again, can he? Give me the Bucs at a pick'em against the Panthers. And if I lose because of that leg, it's okay, because that will then give the Falcons a pretty big advantage in winning the NFC South. All right, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. Leave a comment below with your best bets for this week. Rate and review the audio version of this podcast. I mean, if I suffer heartbreaking losses that result in me having another losing week, then I don't know. You might never hear from me again, because I might just quit my job and go back to the tire factory, the Michelin tire factory. If there's some day and you just realize Iain hasn't tweeted in a while, Iain hasn't written an article, Iain hasn't released a podcast, and you go to my Twitter feed and it's empty, and you go to SI and you see I haven't written an article in weeks, just know that I'm in Waterville, Nova Scotia, working a night shift at the Michelin tire factory. Good night, everyone. The road to 272 marches on.